Members, we are now in open session. I will invite the public into the gallery. Everyone is welcome at today's meeting of the Public Accounts Committee. Can I remind you to turn off all mobile phones and electronic devices, with the exception of your tablets, which contain your electronic committee meeting packs. It is not sufficient to put mobiles on silent mode, as they continue to interfere with assembly recording. The session is being recorded in video and audio and can be accessed live by way of online streaming, either on the Assembly website or on Democracy Live. And we move immediately to the first item on the agenda, which is the apologies. I have apologies from our chairperson, Michaela Boyle. I'm pleased to say is making a good recovery and hopefully will be here next week. Also from Mr. Girvan and Mr. Hussey. Do members have any other apologies? I understand Claire Hanna will be here at 2:30. Can I move on then to item number 2, minutes of the meeting of the 10th of February 2016. Members, the minutes of the last meeting can be found on page 5 of your electronic packs. Are you content with the draft minutes to be signed into the record?
Agreed.
I'll do that. We'll move on to agenda item number 3, matters arising. Some correspondence from the Department for Finance's accounting officer in relation to a recent anonymous whistleblower's letter regarding the NICS voluntary exit scheme. Members, you will see on page 9 of your electronic packs correspondence dated the 5th of February 2016 from the Department of Finance's accounting officer referring to the recent anonymous whistleblower's letter received by the committee that raised concerns over employees leaving under the VES and returning on a consultancy basis. Specifically in relation to the rules in regard to a member of staff leaving under VES and then being re-engaged under a consultancy role. Mr. Sterling has advised that currently this is not prohibited under the rules of the scheme. Part 12.6 of the Civil Service Compensation Scheme NI outlines how those individuals re-employed by the civil service or other public bodies within the scheme should be treated. However, HM Treasury are currently considering consultation on the repayment of public sector exit payments regulations 2016, and they have confirmed that it is intended that the regulations will include the recovery of exit payments in relation to the engagement of consultants who have previously left with an exit payment from the public purse. Mr. Sterling has also advised that the regulations will have effect from April 2016, and a legislative consent motion has already been agreed by the Assembly in order for this regulation to extend to Northern Ireland. Kieran, I know that when we previously discussed this issue, you advised the committee that it is anticipated a full audit will be carried out on the VES scheme in the near future. And when this has concluded, you will update us on your findings. Do you have any comment on Mr. Sterling or Mr. Sweeney's letter? Sorry, it is Mr. Sterling.
It is Mr. Sterling. No, I think the letter is helpful, and I think there's just one little caveat I'll just draw your attention to. It's at the second last paragraph of the first page. It refers to the recovery of exit payments when a high earner returns to any part of the public sector after exit. That then opens the debate what actually is a high earner and where is the line actually drawn. We will be coming back to this whole topic. You've mentioned that we intended to do a separate piece of work on VE. That has already started, and all of this is something we can keep in mind.
Are members content that that's underway and will sometime in the future come to a future meeting of the PAC committee? Yes. Okay. Members, do you agree to note this correspondence and forward a copy of it to the Committee for Finance and Personnel for their information? Agreed. All agreed. Now, correspondence from the Department for Education's Accounting Officer in regard to teacher suspensions. Members, you will see at page 11 of your electronic packs correspondence dated 9th February 2016 from the Department of Education's Accounting Officer in regard to the issue of teachers on precautionary suspensions. You will recall that we considered this matter in our meeting on the 27th of January after a letter was received from NAS UWT in regards to one of their members. Subsequently, the committee wrote to Mr Sweeney highlighting our concern around the adverse cost to the public force long-term suspensions incurred. Mr Sweeney has now advised the committee that a project steering group has been established to monitor prolonged teacher absences beyond that of sickness. He has also advised us that in order to progress these cases more expediently, the Department has increased its monitoring of precautionary suspensions from a 6-monthly basis to every quarter. The Department has also reminded employing authorities that they must carry out monthly reviews of individual cases in conjunction with the boards of governors and provide assurances that those reviews at quarterly governance and accountability review meetings. Kieran, have you any comment to make?
Well, I think it's very positive that the department is taken an interest in this and has set up a project steering group and has reminded authorities that they must carry out monthly reviews. The proof, of course, will be in the pudding. So what we'll be doing is just tracking the volume of cases and how long they're going on for, and we'll do that in the next audit.
I'm sure members, certainly Roy, yes?
I mean, carrying out monthly reviews needn't necessarily bring about any improvement. It just means they're reviewing the list. What I would like to hear is what are they doing to refine the process so that we do not have individuals on suspensions for two or 3 years at public cost and cost to themselves as well, because many subsequently come back to their original job. So it would be much better if there was a faster process. I admit that some issues take time, but my judge of many things is what would happen in the private sector. And I can tell you a private sector company would not have someone off for 2 or 3 years before a decision was made.
Sure, I'd support Mr Beggs in that.
Edwin?
I'd support Mr Beggs, and I just think it's outrageous on all fronts. That you take 2 to 3 years to deal with the disciplinary issue, and people are very often suspended in full pay, and it's just not something that is tolerable. From the public purse, there's obviously a huge detriment, and very often in terms of filling the replacement and all of that there, causes significant problems and issues as well. So in all of this, there needs to be a message sent very loud and clear that type of thing needs to be a thing of the past, and we need to move on to a much more efficient system.
Has any other member any comment to make? No. I think Kieran members will agree that it is positive, but the points made by both Roy and Edwin are valid, and presumably arising out of your involvement, there may well in the future be, have some recommendations or something that might shorten the process and avoid these peculiar cases.
Well, I think the really important thing from now on is going to be monitored.
Yes.
And hopefully that should have an impact on the speed of the process. Just remind, the committee had also written out more generally to DFP to say what, what the scale of the problem is elsewhere in the public sector beyond teachers. So it's not unique to teaching. There are cases elsewhere in the public sector, and the committee has asked for figures on what the scale of that is.
Yeah, I think I'm just coming to that because that's very relevant, very important, and we can't get into individual cases, but I can't help being aware of one particular case where a teacher was invited back to the school to re-engage and re-suspended at the same meeting. Now, obviously, I'm not offering an opinion on how that happened, but it did happen. Now, just to follow from what you're saying, Kieran, we are awaiting a response from the Department of Finance before dissolution in regards to the general issue of suspensions across all departments, and I suggest once this has been received, we consider if any further action is necessary. In the meantime, are members content to note this correspondence and also to forward a copy to a copy of Mr. Sweeney's response to the Education Committee for their information?
Agreed.
That. If we can move on from that, correspondence received from Mr. McManus regarding the Charity Commission. The committee received correspondence from Mr. McManus dated the 12th and 20th of December, which was considered on the 13th of January in relation to allegations of misuse of monies by the Charity Commission NI, that is CCNI. Members agreed to note this correspondence. The Audit Office agreed to update the committee on this matter at a later date pending the completion of a statutory inquiry by the Charity Commission into the DPOANI and the outcome of a Charity Tribunal appeal. The committee wrote to Mr. McManus informing him of this action. In your table packet, page 3, is a reply from Mr. McManus in which he raises more concerns about the CCNI and refers specifically to a Charity Tribunal decision to uphold a decision by CCNI to remove a board member. The Attorney General has applied to the High Court to appeal the Tribunal's decision. Kieran, do you have any comment to make on this correspondence?
In a sense, this hasn't really changed since we discussed it last month, because this legal process is still live. The correspondence in this, well, we have a correspondence even going back a couple of years on it. But I have to say, we're not the auditors of the organisation. It is a charity. We do have an interest in any grant funding to it, but funding provided by the Victims and Survivors Service and Northern Ireland Police Fund is currently suspended. The Charity Tribunal is also involved in this, so that has endorsed the view of the Commission itself. I think it is worth saying the Tribunal itself is an independent review body established by statute and whose members are appointed by the Judicial Appointments Commission. So the thing is still alive. I think it would be entirely wrong to be involved at this stage.
Okay.
I think when the process is concluded, then we can look again at it.
Do any other members wish to make any comment? Do you agree then that this correspondence should be noted, given an appeal has been lodged by the Attorney General?
Agreed.
Agreed. Now we move on to correspondence received from Mr. Ross Hussey, MLA, regarding the Charity Commission NI, and I have to point out that this correspondence was forwarded as an MLA and not as a member of the Public Accounts Committee, and Mr. Hussey has declared an interest previously. So if you like to look at page 12 of your electronic packs, you will find correspondence from Mr. Ross Hussey, MLA, with regard to the CCNI, in which he requests that the Audit Office investigate the CCNI's use of public monies and use of charity funds to defend legal actions. Mr. Hussey has also written to the Minister for Social Development. Kieran, do you have any comment to make on this?
Again, just as I said earlier, I think it'd be entirely wrong for me to have any involvement at this stage. It's in the charity sector. It has its own regulatory system. Yes, I am the auditor of the Charity Commission, but I'd be quite reticent to, second guess them on an individual case. What I would have the power to do is look at their operation in the round as a public body. But if I were to do that would be competing with maybe 40 or 50 other projects that I have on the stocks. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. I would certainly give consideration to it, but in the overall scheme of things in the public sector and the other demands on my resources, it wouldn't be, I'll be honest, it's not top of the list at this time. That's it, if there, reserve judgment until this particular case works its way through, and then we'll take another look at it.
Does any other member have a view? No. So, DPOAMI is the subject of a statutory inquiry by the Charity Commission. I also note there's a point under appeal by the Attorney General on the institution of the CCNI's inquiry, paragraph 109 of Mr Hussey's letter. So, in light of this, I think it would be prudent to wait until the process has concluded before considering if there is any further action required by this committee. I think that's reasonable. Agreed? Agenda item 4, correspondence. I'm pleased to tell you there is no new correspondence to discuss. We move on quickly to item number 5. Inquiry on Account ANI, review of a public sector financial shared service centre memorandum of reply update. Members, can I direct you to page 46 of your electronic packs? You will find a memorandum of reply update from DFP's accounting officer in relation to our inquiry on Account ANI. Mr Sterling has provided a final update on the work undertaken to reduce Account ANI costs. He is advised that by April 2016, Account ANI staff numbers will have reduced by 48.91%, full-time equivalents, equating to 22 points. So I better read that again, it's not right. He has advised that by April 2016, Account ANI staff numbers will have reduced by 48.91 full-time equivalents, equating to 22.63% over the past 3 years, and will result in a 1.4 million salary reduction per annum. As members can see, this has been achieved through several areas, the main one being the recent voluntary exit scheme. Kieran, do you have any comments to make?
Well, I think this is a good result. Just take you back to the committee's recommendation. Original recommendation was that the department would undertake a detailed review of Account ANI costs, both direct staff costs and overheads, with a view to significantly reducing these costs. That, I think, is a good progress on that.
Has any other member anything to say?
No.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, just by way of background, Chair, I think the committee at the time was quite strong on the view that Account ANI was a high-cost operation, and really that DFP needed to do more to drive out costs and to reduce those costs. So to that extent, this is certainly a very positive news story. The total amount which the staff reductions seem to equate to is about 1.4 million per annum, which is clearly a very positive result from the committee's work on this particular shared service.
I'm sure members will agree with Eddie. There was a reluctance at the time to accept that there was anything wrong. It's good work, well done, and a considerable amount of public money saved.
Chair,
Yes.
just on it, we can obviously see the savings. Is there any indication of an impact on service?
No, it was quite interesting, actually, at the time of the evidence session. The service actually was lauded because we're really, really good on prompt payment. So the civil service record and prompt payment surpass other parts of the public sector. We have no indication as yet that there's any negative effect on the speed of processing payments. If there was, that would be pretty obvious because prompt payment has to be reported annually in the accounts. Of course, that's something we'll keep an eye on. But no signs of that as yet.
Yeah. No,
Sorry, although there was one issue about the actual service users in the civil service, and the committee actually made a recommendation that the department needed to undertake steps to improve customer satisfaction rates and to address the specific needs of finance directors in the wider civil service as a client group. So the customer satisfaction rates for the users from Account DNI weren't particularly high, and that was something which the committee mentioned specifically in its recommendations.
I think it's critically important, whilst we're making savings, that services are maintained at a high standard. And sometimes that can hit blips, whenever you're doing fundamental change and it needs to be observed over a longer period of time. But that's welcome news, and I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you, Edwin. Roy?
Yes, while welcoming the savings that are being introduced by lower staff numbers, at the same time it is coming at a cost of the redundancy scheme that's been put in. It would have been much better if staffing numbers had been managed over a longer time basis, and that the limited public funds would not have had to been paid for redundancy payments.
Thank you. Are members content to note this memorandum of reply update?
Yep.
Members, for the remaining items of business, it's necessary that we move into closed session. Are members content that we now move to closed session? Agreed?
This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee Room.